professor at Indiana University, and I've been advised by attorneys to not participate in those, so I will recuse myself.
Thank you. Mr. Bogan.
Thank you. Good morning, Superintendent, members of the board. I'm pleased to share with you two very successful CAPE visits and visit results with you this morning. The first concerns Indiana University Bloomington on April the 9th to April 11th of last year. The CAPE Council of the Accreditation of Educator Preparation provided an on-site team to visit the School of Education at Indiana University. We are pleased to share with the board the final decision of the Accreditation Council of CAPE. The School of Education at Indiana University Bloomington was granted accreditation for 7 years with areas for improvement, and the next site visit will take place in spring of 2024. So we're talking about 7 years. Some of the areas of strength included the use of EdTPA within their program. They are piloting a 4-year residency model, which has sparked my interest and a few others that we're going to be looking at. And they also have a very strong clinical partnership process in place with the local school districts that they work with, which is approximately 100 school districts. The DOE requests the state board recognize the decision of CAPE and likewise approve continued state accreditation for the School of Education at Indiana University Bloomington. And we are pleased to have Dr. Jill Shedd, Assistant Dean for Teacher Education at IU, to answer any additional questions that you may have.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. IU Bloomington. IU East.
And our second item today is actually a new program proposal from Indiana University East, the School of Education. They are seeking final approval for an early childhood licensure program for their elementary major candidates. They have been offering a minor and early childhood for quite some time, but they decided that they would like to convert this into a licensure option, which is obviously a great idea for their candidates. The DOE review team has reviewed the proposal, and we recommend the state board grant final approval to this program. We will continue to monitor, assuming you approve it, the future national recognition status of this program as well. We invited Dr. Jerry Weil, Dean of the School of Education, to join us, and he is here to answer any questions you may have.
Yes.
Just one question. What is the demand for early childhood education?
The demand is, and we have plenty of early childhood programs in our area. The level of the certification of the teachers is lacking, I would say. What we're hoping is that by offering this, we improve the probability of increasing the performance of the early childhood programs.
Are there people seeking this certification right now?
It's one of our more popular minors, and what we believe is if it is an option to add that, then they will. That's what our hopes are.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those, I'm sorry, any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, IU East. University of St. Francis Teacher Preparation Program.
And similar to IU Bloomington, the University of St. Francis underwent a CAPE on-site visit on August the 27th to August the 29th of last year. And we are also pleased to share with the board the final decision of the Accreditation Council of CAPE. The Department of Education at the University of St. Francis was granted accreditation for 7 years with areas for improvement, and also will undertake a visit in the spring of 2024. The DOE requests the State Board recognize the decision of CAPE and likewise approve continued state accreditation for the Department of Education at the University of St. Francis. I would like to point out 3 areas that are noteworthy and positives pertaining to their program. They have been identified for their strong clinical partnerships, their diverse student populations, and they have a process in place for monitoring their candidates' dispositions, which is an important professional component of all of our teacher prep programs. And we're pleased to have Dr. Mary Riepenhoff, Assistant Professor and Chair, and Emily Lotzenhauser, who is the School Accreditation Coordinator, with us today to answer questions you may have.
Do we have any questions? Or Dr. Freitas?
The recommendation is for initial programs. And do you have advanced programs also? And when does that come up? Do you have advanced programs?
Yes.
And is that a separate visit, Scott?
CAPE has not been reviewing advanced programs, but they are going to start reviewing advanced programs in 2 years, so it will fall under the next accreditation cycle.
Okay. The other question I had was congratulations. I went through the report. I thought it was very, very well done. Question I had was an area for improvement and with standard 4, dealing with validity and reliability of the instruments that you use, which is really tough for all of us at the university level. What's your plan to have those instruments meet validity and reliability metrics?
Because Kate put us on this fast-paced and continuous improvement, which we're happy about, believe it or not.
Right.
It just means more hair color for me. We have developed we hired a new faculty member who has a lot of experience at a very large university, and he came with information to help us try to get our hands wrapped around validity and reliability. So with his help and our whole faculty, we've designed a new rubric, which is much less onerous on the cooperating teachers and our university supervisors. We think it's a narrative, it's a holistic rubric, and we're right now piloting it already in the field. So after a semester of piloting, with many opportunities for people to use it in the field, we'll have this quality assistance team come back in the summer, look at the data, and then decide whether or not did we measure what we were supposed to measure, and then we'll start training in a full force to get all the cooperating teachers and our university supervisors through, we hope, an online format to train them to use the tool in a reliable manner.
The other question I had, Scott mentioned one of the positive things was your clinical experiences, and I agree with that. And some of us believe that students should be out in the field as much as possible. And it's important to take the coursework, but it's much more important to be out there in the field. And can you talk more about that and share that with other board members? Exactly when does it happen, how often, and what's the length of the clinical experiences?
We like to say one of our selling points is freshman year you'll be in the field. We start them at a smaller private school, a small Catholic elementary, to try to get them to start feeling confident in approaching a student and helping them without being teacher instructed. And then by the time, obviously, they're junior and senior year, they're out in the field for hundreds of hours. Our students graduate with more than 400 hours of field experience. And we put them in different places every time. So one course might be specifically directed at a rural elementary school. One course might be specifically placing students in the Fort Wayne community system, so that they see lots of different students, lots of different teachers, in order to build their not only their professional dispositions about how I interact with these different populations of people, but also how might I present my best self to be hired by you in the future. So we are proud of our diversity in placements.
Congratulations again.
Thank
I
you so
certainly
much.
support the approval
We appreciate
recommendation.
your approval.
Thank you. So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any other comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bogan. Next item, Chocma Freeway accreditation.
So the next item for the State Board's consideration is the Chocma Institute's petition for freeway accreditation. You've all been provided a memo with staff recommendation. And at this time, I want to call on Mark Eastway, CEO and President of Chocma Institute, to provide some more information on the
Yes, hi, I'm Mark Eastway, the board president of Chocma Institute. And I don't have a lengthy introductory statements, but I sent a couple months ago a rather lengthy business plan, and we received quite a bit of feedback in relation to that. We view that as a real positive because from our perspective, we want to work with the board, the State Board of Education, to do things in a way that is right accordance to your wishes. And so we made quite a few modifications to that and resent a couple weeks ago. And so you should have that. So I will be open to all kinds of questions, but really open to hear what the direction you folks would want to go on that.
Any questions?
Second.
Any other comments? Dr. Freitas?
How many years has the school been operating?
So this is a new thing. This is under the new freeway accreditation law where we're starting from scratch. Now, having said that, it's within the context of having someone basically discipling me in that, and that's Rob Staley with the Crossing Education and walking alongside. So there certainly is a model that's been in existence for a long time, but this is a separate entity. It is new, and so it probably is something new for this board in terms of presenting it, being probably one of the first schools, I suspect, pursuing accreditation under the new rules and guidelines.
So you mentioned the Crossing. Are you
Yes.
in partnership with the Crossing?
When I talked to Rob Staley, he said, I will help you in any way. So it's not a formal partnership, but for example, I needed an example of a contract to do with the public school. They send it right out, and I've got other materials, and I said basically what we would like to do is to have our teachers shadow what your teachers are doing and not reinvent the wheel. And it's really a priority, obviously, for us as we want to get it right year one. And so the approach is not to just start out on our own, but it is to really walk under the mentorship of people who've done it for a long time and I think are effective at what they're doing.
So this is a brand new school.
It really is, yes.
Because I was looking for data on how students are doing currently,
Yes, yes.
and just get a sense of that the infrastructure is there,
Yes.
and students are taking classes,
Mhm.
and so you
Yeah.
affirmed that my looking through this very thick book was
Yes, it's not there.
it's not there. Okay.
And so what happens is we come back next year and we're reviewed each year, and what's critical from our perspective is that the students are doing well, because we don't want to be here next year to explain why we didn't meet the standards. And so, but it is new, but it is very much modeled after something that's currently taking place.
Why would we approve you now and not wait till next year to see some student data? Just to have some data. Right
Yeah.
now we have absolutely no data.
Yeah, yeah.
Why approve it now? Why not delay approval till next year? when we
I
have some
suppose it was
student
probably one of the concerns of the new law. I think my understanding, I think, from the legislatures is they want to make it more of a to facilitate the process, so to speak. And so certainly to be an advantage from your perspective. From our perspective is with freeway accreditation, access to Indiana and Choice scholarships. The other thing is credit recovery, which we strongly encourage to do with public schools. We need that accreditation to do that. We do have a public school that has verbally expressed an interest in partnering with us in that way, but they are waiting on results of this meeting to see how that goes. So certainly, practically speaking, there's an advantage to that, but and there's a certain amount of risk involved. But from our perspective is we are going to do things the way they've been done effectively in the past and elsewhere, and we expect next year you're going to look at our numbers and you can be very pleased with how we've done.
Yeah, and then maybe we could vote next year. So I'm thinking that this might be premature, at least from my perspective. I certainly support conceptually what you're doing, working with that population is really important, will help the state. However, I have a reservation about approving a school, a freeway school, with no data in front of me. I tend to be a data person. And yes, I'm willing to take risk, but I want to take responsible risk. And I think I would like to wait a year, just personally. Other people may vote differently, which is absolutely fine, of course. But that's a reservation I have, is that there's no data available here today. And you can't fix that today, right?
That is true. One of the things is if you're targeting struggling students, then the scholarship funding is really critical to that. So sure, we can start out year one. Year one, we're going to have to be start out with a cost of $6,500 per student. You won't be reaching those kids that we want to target, and therefore you're going to be judging it based on how do some well-to-do families with Christian kids, how are they doing as compared to how are they doing kids that are struggling in terms of credit recovery, in terms of not functioning well in a typical setting. So there is an advantage to that. There is a really critical advantage. And yes, we can and likely will start out year one either way, but it will be a different target group, and your data will not be based upon students with credit recovery, et cetera, and that sort of thing.
How many students do you have currently signed up to start in year one?
We are not publicizing until after this meeting. And so we've got a website all set to go. We've got a partnership that the school that's interested ready to go, but it is critical what happens at this meeting. I mean, we cannot be a credit recovery school unless it's approved for accreditation.
But you could go forward year one without our approval and then come back next year with data. Is that accurate?
Certainly we could. It will be based on a different group of students than what we are really focusing at pursuing.
Thank you for being here today.
So can I have a question for the staff? So have we approved accreditation without data before?
I think you're going to find this is really new, and it's a state law that was just signed into law this past year.
So this has come up with Seventh Day Adventist. Now they were not a dropout recovery program, but that was a freeway accreditation program. And then Kinwell is a dropout recovery program that had operated under the umbrella of Crossings and then had separated out, so it's not exactly the same. But that was a program that was approved by the board. Our staff recommendation in this case was based on the work that they've done with the Crossings to model their program after the Crossings, and also based on their plan and the facilities and things like that. And so, but you're right, the board has the option either to accredit now or to do a one-year waiting period and come back after a year.
What are the consequences of not having accreditation in year one? Freeway accreditation in year one.
So one legal consequence is that the school would not be eligible for choice scholarships.
That's the only consequence.
Right. Now I know that these dropout recovery programs are a little different because in a lot of situations, and I know I don't know if you're still working with WITCO, yes, where there's a contract with the district, and sometimes the state tuition support would then flow that way.
The whole
so
program
it's
is
not necessarily
targeted.
all vouchers.
The whole program is targeted toward recovery.
Right.
That is a major emphasis on it, yes. There may be students such as my daughter who simply attended because she did not function well in the larger school environment. The smaller nurturing environment was just really critical to her and met a need in her life. And so, so if you look at the business plan, there's a variety of students that are targeted, but dropout recovery is a key element of that.
Dr. Yeager?
A couple of questions. I notice you intend to be in the building of Victory Christian Fellowship in
Yes,
North
that is
Manchester?
correct.
Okay. And there's room in there for,
Yes.
and you intend to have, what's your projected enrollment?
So the business plan calls for a minimum of 20, a maximum of 35. Against that, very much like the Crossing, with students working around the periphery of the room, the teacher director in the middle, but yes, there's easily adequate room in there for that.
Okay, and it's all online.
It is all online, but we talked about in there doing a blended approach where there will be general topics that come up in the materials. Now, because they're all working at a different level in a different area of studies, the discussions cannot be comprehensive in terms of what they're all studying at the time, but we can broadly talk about issues that they will be dealing with. And so very much a blended approach, like Carpe Diem, for example, is used in their school.
I heard you say you have a contract you're working on or have with Whitco, Mr. Clayson?
So Whitco verbally said we're interested in doing this. I have a contract in hand, but I have not submitted it to them because we wanted to have this meeting here first before we did that.
So they would, if they have dropouts in their school, they would recommend them to transition to your school?
Yes, that is correct.
And your school would be in North Manchester?
That is correct. Now, Whitco's pretty close to it, though. The
Yeah.
Whitco boundary line's pretty close.
Sure. What about cooperation with Mr. Pettibone in North Manchester?
Well, I'm still working on Mike at this time. And I think, for one thing, it's such a new thing. It's such a new concept. Of course, the change in laws and regulations where they can benefit in terms of our students are not included in their reported school scores. It's an advantage to them, but I do think it's pretty quick to say we're starting a school and can you do it right away. They need time to think about it. I was in the Wawasee School District. I don't know if Tom Eddington is still here. He was here earlier, but worked on getting the crossing, and it literally took several years before they were willing to do that. I think this law will facilitate that, but I think there needs to be a certain amount of patience in that process.
So what happens if you say your business plan indicates that you need 20 students? That's your minimum?
Well, ideally to the business plan. Now, what happens is are people willing to be paid less? Are there other sources of funding? And part of it is we're seeking private funding. And so there are variables in that it could go potentially well below the 20 to start up. But we did do a survey. We did a survey of 10,000 to 12,000 homes in the area. 54% of those families said that they would like some aspect of Christian education in their students' education. So we think that demonstrated that there is a real demand, a real need. And one of the things, would you be willing to pay for it? A lot of them, we had a significant number say yes, we would be happy to pay for it, in fact. So we think that our survey indicated that there is a potential customer base for it.
Are you going to be responsible for renting rooms from the building you're going to be in?
So what we do, there's one primary room, and year one, the arrangement is we pay for the additional utilities, et cetera. Year two is like the crossing does, and they pay a set rate of $1,000 per month for use of that space.
So you'll supply the 20 or so students with laptops or computers?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. All right. I think that's it.
Dr. Bertram?
Without the choice scholarships, how will this be funded if you don't have access to them?
Yeah, again, so what you're looking at, then you're looking at students paying the full amount. And then you're limiting the types of students you want to reach. And again, our goal is to reach struggling students, and we simply can't do that without the scholarship funding unless we got an unexpected amount of private support, which that would be unreasonable to expect at this point.
So you don't have any other public partners right now?
So in terms of partnerships, and I did address that in there. So it is we call it a pilot program. But one thing I have been working with our district superintendent. I'm a Methodist minister, and she in turn has been working with the assistant to the bishop, Cindy Reynolds. And so they understand that this is a pilot project. And so as I said in the business plan, if we were to expand beyond that, it really would be an extension program of the United Methodist Church. So that is a key partnership that we're looking at. But they're kind of saying, go with it this year, and we'll see how it goes, and then we'll work together on that.
So and that's why I was asking that, because in the plan, it is not that they are an official partner. It's like we want to see how it goes, and then we'll decide whether we want to partner. Right? I mean,
certainly so. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's a key element. Yes. And I would say again, to function as intended, we're needing to reach low-income students that we can't do without approval to do that.
Dr. Yeager?
Can I have council come back up? I don't care who, somebody. Past practice, let's talk a little bit, and I appreciate your questions. Past practice, and what happens, can they legally run with their plan without the approval from this group? Those are two questions. Past practice, and can they run with their plan if they don't get a favorable vote here? But it would, what I understand is from Mr. Murphy, it would cost you the scholarships, the vouchers. Okay.
So as far as past practice, I'm not sure if I have anything to add beyond what Brian mentioned with the other school. And as has been noted, this is a relatively new addition to the statute. And the addition reads, and I'm quoting, "The state board may accredit a non-public school under this section at the time the non-public school enters into the contract under subsection A." There is no requirement, statutory requirement, for data, previous year data, or anything like that. Obviously, it's at the board's discretion. It says may. But as far as any other legal consequences, I would agree. The only one I can think of is the lack of access to choice scholarships.
Thank you, Tim. And what does contract mean? What
Sorry?
you said enter into a contract with whom?
A freeway contract with the department.
Dr. Bertram?
Another question, please. Could you go back, a moment ago you were talking about, really it's a question around your partnerships. And you said this, so the church, in which you said would come back after, at some point, whether they would be full partners in this. Tell me about that relationship again.
So I've really been in discussions with our district superintendent for literally years at this point in time. So it's not something that's new.
District superintendent of the church.
The superintendent, district superintendent of our district. That's the Northwest District, one of the 9 districts of the United Methodist Church. She in turn has been in discussions with Cindy Reynolds, the assistant to the bishop.
Okay, so the United Methodist Church
Yes.
has said to you that they would consider partnering with you once they see how things go. Is that correct?
And so what I did is we filled out plans for the future, which we were required to do as Methodist ministers. I stated that I would like to consider pursuing the extension ministry as a major emphasis, and I think from their perspective, it's open-ended. If they see fruit from the effort, then they're going to be 100%.
So my question
Yes.
then, help me reconcile
Yes.
this.
Okay.
If your own church doesn't get behind it
And
and can't see the vision and are willing to embrace it today, why do you think this board should take that leap?
Well, I don't think it's accurate to say or characterize it as that. I think if you look at how the Methodist Church
You said that if they
Yeah.
see fruit,
yeah.
then they will embrace
it. That really is typically how they do things. They don't. They often don't fund things. They kind of say, take a lead in something and see how it goes. I mean, so that it really is consistent with how they deal with things. It's not like they're just leaving me out as an exception to everyone else.
Yeah, in all due respect, I withdraw my motion to approve. Someone else wants to.
So do we have
I just think people have to be all in, right? And I don't think you can have partners as part of your church that says we're not in yet, and then we're willing to take that position. I'm uncomfortable with that as well.
any other comments before we vote on the board's recommendation? We need a motion, though. Dr. Yeager?
I have a
It doesn't mean you support it, but we'll need a motion in a second to cast a vote, yes or no.
What was my motion and what you're saying?
Oh, I thought it was his.
You moved? Yeah. Well, I thought I.
Yeah. I think you did. Dr. Yeager, do you have another comment, or can we go to vote?
You withdraw the motion.
Withdraw?
I withdraw my motion to withdraw my motion.
Okay, comments, Dr. Yeager?
I want to make it clear, I'm very interested in the success of your thoughts and ideas and program. To have a place for dropouts to go. And having been a traditional public school employee for a number of years, it's always frustrating when parents, and whether it's a private parochial or public, public charter, it's always frustrating when parents get frustrated with decisions that are made regarding their children and pull them out and say, I'm going to homeschool. Sometimes homeschool is great, but homeschool in that situation might be more difficult to justify. So I want you to know I do support the concept. Wondering about the background information, the background support, and you're kind of in a tight spot in that if this isn't approved, then you don't have $6,500 per kid, per student. And yet I'm a little worried about this board sticking their necks out and approving something and setting a precedent. And maybe we need to set a precedent since it's a new law. So anytime we vote on this, it's a new law. So it's going to set a precedent.
It is exactly that. It's a new law, and just simply reading it, my expectation would be that it is an uncomfortable position for this board, because okay, it's in writing, but what happens if you go through and the school does not do well?
And your $6,500 per student, if you receive this,
Yes.
would be voucher or scholarship money, and that will employ the leader slash teacher.
Yes.
And you just have one in there.
Yes. And unless you go above 20, then you bring on a second.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. That's it.
So we have a motion on the floor and we have a second. Your motion, Mr. Walker, was to approve the board's recommendation to approve the accreditation status. So we'll have roll call, please.
Just for clarification, the board was not approving today.
I would have a question too before you vote.
Sure.
So not accredited, I would take it then that will also impact the dropout recovery option too. That we simply can't contract with Whitco to receive dropout credit recovery students because we are not accredited. That would be my expectation that will affect that also.
I would assume.
Just to be clear on that. Okay,
Thank you. Roll call, please.
No.
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 Yes.
No.
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 Yes.
No. Thank you.
Brian?
The motion, can you say that again, Brian? The motion failed. Thank you.
Failed.
I just want to make sure that was clear. Thank you. Cross Point Christian Academy A through F appeal.
Move recommendation.
Come on up, Tim, real quick. Sorry.
What I was going to suggest was that, similar to what we did last month, we have a representative from the school here to have them present prior to discussing the recommended decision. Though we don't want to do that based off of the motion.
So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Would you like to hear from the school?
It seems to be just a mathematical correction, essentially. Is that correct?
Yeah, data correction.
So it's not a complicated issue as I read it. That's why I jumped in to make the recommendation.
May I add something? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
The appeal from the school sought two things. They had concerns with the accountability model as well as the data issue. The recommended decision, the memo that I prepared, because the original recommended decision denied both points. The memo that I have prepared recommends correcting the data, but not the other part of the appeal regarding the accountability model. And given that the school has come, I would humbly suggest that they be allowed to present their case.
That's fine.
Good afternoon, Superintendent McCormick.
Good
and members
afternoon.
of the board. Thank you for taking a few minutes to consider our appeal. My name is Brent Floyd. I'm the administrator at Cross Point Christian Academy in Indianapolis. And in regards to the errors in the data that we'd like to have corrected, we acknowledge the errors in the pupil enrollment reports and the effect that those have on the graduation cohorts in question. We were ignorant of the errors due to newness in the reporting process, a change in who was doing the reporting, and some lack of training probably there. Also the fact that we received null grades the first 2 years, and then a growth-only score the next year. So this pass score was the first time that these errors became obvious to us. And being a small school, just one student can significantly affect the scores. One error, there were originally 3. One error was corrected by the department, and we are just asking that the other 2 errors be corrected so as not to affect our graduation rate going forward. We understand the accountability grade may or may not be affected, but one student reflected in the error is on track currently for a 4-year diploma, and the other error reflects a student who transferred out of our school. Again, thank you for considering our appeal.
Thank you. As a department, I just have to say we still have concerns with the data that's been provided to make sure that's corrected. So I just want to make sure that's out in the open before I vote. So any other comments or concerns? Roll call, please.
Wait a minute. What does that mean, what you just said?
Well, the question becomes cohorts, and Maggie or John would have to speak to that, but it becomes cohorts. So we have to rely upon data that's submitted to prove that kids are in at it was suggested they're in the wrong cohort, but we need data to correct it, which we have to have. If not, students remain in the cohort they were assigned to. So that's kind of the piece of it that we're still trying to work through.
And subsequent reports showed the student in the right grade, but not the pupil enrollment, and we didn't find that error until later.
Yeah, one was on the department. We corrected that. The other was we're waiting on data.
So that would be 2 other students you're referring to?
Yeah.
And that was school's error?
Is that correct, Maggie? I don't want to misspeak.
Sure. That was a school's error on the other 2? Okay.
Will it, Miss Maggie?
So there were 3 students in question in the audit. One student, the PE record, put the student in the 2019 cohort, but then it was reflected in the 2018. So since we had it in our system in the 2019, we updated that, and that was the one that the department fixed through the audit. The other 2 had the PE records, and I keep referring to the PE because actually the Indiana statute explicitly